Hallo bei Yagaloo, heute mit Brandon Boyd, Sänger von Incubus und jetzt auch mit Sons of the Sea unterwegs.
Hi.
Hey Brandon, much has been made of you going solo, yet you carry a real band name, Sons of the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you even perceive this as a solo venture?
This new project, Sons of the Sea, I don't sort of look at as much of a solo record, though it is sort of one of, I'm one of the guys from Incubus doing something else, though everybody in Incubus is sort of off doing other things. That was sort of the idea around sort of taking a break, was to allow each of us the opportunity to explore away from Incubus, though we're still very much a band. Yeah, but this isn't so much a solo project as it is a collaborative effort with an old friend, Brendan O'Brien.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about Brandon, how you met, and what the impact was that he had on the record?
Yeah. Brendan has had a lot to do with my sort of musical upbringing before I knew him, with his work with Pearl Jam and Rage Against the Machine and Stone Temple Pilots, among other artists he's produced. And then we met him, Incubus met him in, I think, probably 2002. And we did, the first record we did with him was A Crow Left of the Murder, which came out in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. And we had a great time working with him. And so when we started to write songs for what was to become Light Grenades, he produced that one as well. And then he also produced If Not Now When, which was the last Incubus record that we did. And sometime kind of towards the latter part of recording If Not Now When, we started to kind of almost like joke around, like, hey, let's try and write a song together sometime, one of those things. Yeah. So we'd known each other over 10 years, but we'd never sat down and tried to write a song together because he's a fantastic musician. So this break that Incubus took, I didn't necessarily stop writing songs or have any desire to stop making music. So Brendan and I got in touch, and I started sending him some musical ideas, and he started sending me some ideas, and we basically just gave it a shot, and it started turning out really cool, but like right away. Mm-hmm. It was almost like it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. So now we have a record.
Do you feel like you could have realized the vision that you had for these songs, for the song material, for at least for the parts that you wrote with Incubus, or do you feel this as particularly something that you couldn't have done within the realms of the band?
That's a good question. I was writing songs, and I'm always writing like melodic ideas, and I have hundreds of them that are just sort of in telephone recorders and things like that, and bad demos and all that kind of stuff. And I think that I've never really written songs and said, okay, this song is for Incubus and this song is going to be for something else. I've never really done that before. When it's time to write an Incubus record, I give everything that I have. Mm-hmm. I sort of present every idea and give all of myself into that process. So with this, because there wasn't an Incubus record to be made at this point, I gave all of myself into this. Right. But what was interesting about it too was the fact that working with a new songwriting partner in Brendan O'Brien, it brought out very different things in me as a songwriter. Right. That,
can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, like I mean, there's definitely like a pop sentiment to this album that only was really ever hinted at in Incubus. Right. Like we kind of touched on it here and there over the years, but never really fully went there. And on this record, it's I guess you'd call it an alternative record of sorts, but it's definitely more pop.
All right. Yeah, you call it Oddball Pop.
Oddball Pop.
All right.
Yeah.
Can you define that? What's the idea, and how
Sure.
and why did you come up with that crazy term?
It was born of a couple of different things. Both Brendan and I have been making records long enough to know that the music is going to get categorized whether you want it to or not. Mm-hmm. And so you very rarely can control what category it gets put in. And Incubus has learned that the hard way all too well over the years, with being categorized occasionally as a type of band that we were never particularly comfortable with. So knowing that, that was one of the reasons when it was like, when we started finishing the album and listening back to certain things we'd recorded, Both of us would kind of laugh at certain parts and be like, that's really weird. That's a really weird decision that we made right there. That's a really odd sounding pop song. So it just became Oddball Pop. And then on the plus, I just started saying it like that. And so it caught on. And so now it won't be classified as something more frightening than Oddball Pop.
What's been the feedback to that term that you've garnered so far?
So far, people seem to be relatively sort of intrigued by it. So no one's, thrown it back at me and said, "This is terrible. What have you done?"
Now, lyrically, what has driven you with this record? What inspired the songs? What are they about? I assume the lyrics are all yours?
Yes, sorry. I speak lots of languages when I'm traveling around. Yes, we see. That's sort of my main thing, I guess, that I do is sort of, I guess you could say I'm a lyricist. I'm also a singer, but the lyrics on this record, it was an interesting time as far as my process is concerned. And I had a number of, I guess you could call it calamitous things that happened in my life over the past handful of years. And anything and everything that sort of occurs in my life, any circumstances that I'm presented with in my life, I've always found that writing and poetry and art and songwriting are a way to make sense of all the things that take place. So in that regard, there were a number of things that happened, both good and bad, that were really inspiring. I spent a portion of time about 4 years ago in very poor health, and it was a very frightening time, and it felt like the world was kind of like collapsing in on me. And but it ended up being a hugely revelatory time as well, because of all the things that you can potentially learn about yourself in a period of time when you're sick. So I used that as a real sort of source of inspiration. And as I was coming out of that is when a lot of these ideas were coming up. So a song like Avalanche on the record is reflective of that. There were a couple of songs that were written in dreams. The lyrics sort of came up and the melodies kind of came up in dreams. And I was able to remember them and make a little bit of sense of them when I woke up.
What about Untethered, which I think is the best song on the record?
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And Untethered kind of deals with, there was a quote actually that inspired the lyric. It's a quote by Emily Dickinson. I'll paraphrase it, but she says, "Tell all truth, but tell it in slant, lest every man go blind." And I tweaked that little bit of her poem in the chorus of Untethered, and I say, "Tell us the truth, but tell it to us gently, lest we all go blind." It deals with the idea of searching for truth and being sort of shocked occasionally at what we find. And most of us, in an all too human kind of reaction, will see the truth and cower away from it, because usually the truth is really quite shocking. And there are relative truths. There are truths that are only available to us based on where we are in our development, So I say in the song that why is it we compare the truth to staring at the sun? And so a lot of times it's as if, like, when we see something real for the first time, it's like we're staring into the sun. You can barely see it. But then the further you allow the truth in, the more you can adjust to the brightness of that light.
That's a nice picture.
Yeah.
What are you?
I would recommend staring into the sun, by the way, in reality.
What are your plans to bring the new songs on the road?
I just actually put a band together to tour this, and great bunch of guys, incredible musicians. And we did the first 8 concerts in the States to kind of test the water, see how it went. It went really well.
All right.
And so I'm hoping, if all goes according to plan, to bring it over to Europe, hopefully sooner than later. If there are any promoters out there that want us to come and play, we'd be more than willing, because it's a really fun bunch of songs to perform. And I was able to perform stuff from my first real solo record, to the Wild Trapeze, sort of mix them into the set, and everybody seemed to really enjoy it.
Will fans be treated some odd pop oddball pop versions of Incubus songs as well?
No, this is something that's actually very different. It's a fair question, but no, this is something that's sort of like its own thing. I've seen when some of my sort of peers have gone off and done their own things and then sort of drifted back into their own material, but without the original bands, and it always seemed a little bit not cool to me. It's like, what are you doing? You have a band. Like, that was what you guys did. It's a different thing. Like honor it by like keeping it that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, finally, last question. We have to do this for, I mean, there will be a lot of fans of Incubus that will listen and watch this. What are the plans for the band? Like short and midterm?
The short-term plan is to continue taking a break. Sorry, guys. All of us have been very kind of like fruitful and busy in our solo pursuits, and it's been very good. I think it's been a really good thing for us to get to know ourselves away from the bigness of Incubus. But we also are starting to get a little bit antsy, I think, to maybe write some new music together. So we've been playing with the idea of maybe doing something early next year. So we'll see.
It's good news for everybody. All right, Brandon. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, man.